Okay, so welcome to the AIFI Summer Bootcamp 2023 information session. So today we're going to see in 1 hour what is the main topics that we're going to be covering in our bootcamp. We're going to also be talking about the certificate, right? Obviously very important aspect of delegates taking the bootcamp, and don't hesitate, right? So to stop me and ask questions along the way. So this is not a class or a lecture, right? So any question is good at any time. Okay, so we founded the Artificial Intelligence Finance Institute back in 2018, right? So it's gonna be this year our 5th anniversary, right? So back in 2018, right? So things were as exciting as they are these days, right? But obviously AI was some sort of probably a more emergent technology, right? Today we are seeing obviously an explosion and an avalanche of interest implementation projects on AI in finance, right? So I think we were right. We were right back then. We're even more right today with the idea that AI technology is going to have a very important impact in finance. They're going to have a very important impact for all industries. They're going to have a very important impact for society, right? And the idea of our institute is to provide education, right, on artificial intelligence in the finance world. We define finance as investment management, capital markets, and risk, right? So banking, asset management, option pricing are areas that are being impacted by the emergence of algorithms, machine learning algorithms, AI algorithms, reinforcement learning, deep learning, natural language processing. So the idea is that we are here to offer some of the most in-depth educational programs for quants, for computer scientists, for fintech professionals, finance professionals, and so on. So we are a diverse faculty of world-leading academics and practitioners. So you'll see that we have in our faculty several quants of the year, right? And with the idea that some sort of academics and practitioners that were and are implementing financial mathematical models, right, are now shifting to, right, let's say the more non-parametric areas of finance, right, in order to perform several tasks. So here what we're going to do is a mixture. So the bootcamp is basically a mixture of maths, coding, right, and finance theory, right? And we are increasing in this bootcamp, which is going to be the 10th cohort. So we already had, this is the 10th cohort, and also we've also offered the bootcamp to corporations, so large financial institutions, startups, asset managers, and so on, right? So the idea is that after the bootcamp, whoever has been obviously paying attention, working very hard with PyTorch, with TensorFlow, scikit-learn, stat models, and all the tools we're going to learn to use, right? And obviously, again, also large language models, right? So after the bootcamp, you'll have, I think, I don't want to exaggerate, but I think it can transform, right, your careers as well as it did with ours, right? In the sense we're doing now very different things, that we were back then. Even 3 years ago, 5 years ago, finance was a different thing, right? And now finance is morphing into, right, some sort of a more artificial finance, let's say. I am the founder and CEO of the company, right? So I have a long 30 years experience on quantitative finance. I'm also head of development at Global AI, right? And I'm currently teaching at NYU, Courant, NYU Tandon. So I have so two hats, right? One hat is I've been a practitioner for many years, right? Another hat is the training and teaching and researching is something that that I really love, and all faculty members share the same idea, right? So we are all academics, practitioners, but we twice a year we gather together and we teach all these topics for delegates like I hope that you will be taking that. And I have a PhD in quantitative finance. I've also been teaching 7 years for Columbia University. I'm also on the board of the quantitative finance group in the CFA New York, and also advisory board member at the FDPI, Financial Data Professionals Institute, right, which is some sort of the data science branch of Kaya and so on. The faculty also, so we wanted to have in the faculty the best professors, right, available to teach in New York, right? So as you have read in the brochure, so the bootcamp is taking place in New York, at NYU Tandon, in Brooklyn, right? And we have, as I said, some of the best professors of machine learning in finance in the United States, and I would say all across the globe, right? So we have Peter Kolm, who's clinical professor, director of mathematics in finance master programs at Courant. Been working with him. Peter is obviously one of the giants, right? Matthew Dixon, right? Having a huge footprint in finance. Also, as Peter Kolm recently awarded Quant of the Year, right? So, and Matthew is applied mathematician, professor of applied maths at Illinois Tech, so in Chicago. He's teaching machine learning, computational finance, Bayesian econometrics, and he's the co-founder of Thalessians, right, who's very popular in Europe, in the States too, and he wrote this wonderful book that we use as a reference called Machine Learning in Finance from Theory to Practice, right? We also have another in the faculty, right, as a scientific advisor, Gordon Reader. I guess that many people in the audience knows him, but he's teaching basically at almost all the US leading MFE programs. Baruch College, NYU, is also in Chicago. So he has wonderful papers, and we'll have him also giving some of the lectures. The depth and breadth of Gordon's knowledge is something that you cannot miss, right? As well as Matthew's and Peter's, right? So I think we all can give again very interesting perspectives on the practice, on the theory, on the most modern techniques in finance. Following with the faculty members, Stefan Johnson, some of you may know him, is the author of the Machine Learning in Trading book, who's had 2 editions, right? So he's also a brilliant instructor, and Stefan is gonna teach, right, unsupervised learning or self-supervised learning, a really emergent and important area in finance, and deep learning, which is also an incredibly important area in finance. Another important faculty member for us is Nicole Concepcion, right? She's a distinguished data scientist, quantitative researcher, working as data science and technology lead at Impact Buys, an ESG analytics company. He's also head of AI and quantitative research at QuantMate. He's also writing a book on transformers. He's recently wrote a book about math for machine learning. And Nicole is going to give the coding session. So we have increased the coding sessions in the bootcamp with the idea that I think the delegates, the students expect from us to prepare them for real life with lots of code and models that they can implement, right? So this is going to be, right? So we have been increasing all these years the coding aspects, right? Because of the feedback we got. We got always good, excellent feedback saying, okay, it's very deep on maths, it's very deep of intuition, it's very deep on coding, but coding is essential, right? So yeah, so coding is going to be a very important part, right? So and I guess that later on we can discuss about the coding background that is needed for the bootcamp and all that kind of stuff. Okay, let's discuss logistics. So the logistics are the following. So it's from the 7th to the 12th August, right? So in a couple of months in Brooklyn, it's in New York, right? So it's 40 hours. This is the price, right? We have we still can get the early bird discount, right, of 25%. There's also an early bird discount for 15% until 14th of July, right? And it's also, it's not here, but it's also, you can take the bootcamp online. So it's being streamed. So last year also it was streamed, right? And obviously, and it starts at 9 a.m. EST, New York time, and we typically finish at 5 p.m. New York time. Obviously, there's some delay for, right? So for the ones taking that in Europe, so it's going to be, let's say, from 2 to 11, right? And so on. And the quality of the recordings and the quality of the streaming is just really very good, right? So don't hesitate to, if you can't come to New York, which is the best option, I think, you know, you can take it on the online. We will also provide recordings. So every week, every day, sorry, after the day is finished, 2 hours after, we send the recordings. So okay, so you will have the recordings for you. You can keep the recordings. You cannot circulate further the recordings, but you can obviously keep them, right? And you'll have around 1,000 slides that we produce, and when we have around 50 notebooks, right? We produce and give a lot of code, things that are pretty advanced, right? So we see, we'll see now when I talk about the content of the bootcamp, we will be showing you the most advanced models, transformers, right? LSTMs, reinforcement learning in different flavors, right? And so on. Okay, let's deep dive on the content. And here again, I welcome questions, right? If you want to know more about, right, maybe it's a good moment to discuss what is the level that is required in order to take the bootcamp. And it obviously, you need some finance basics, but finance has never been a problem, in the sense that computer scientists, quants, and let's say non-finance people has taken the bootcamp. And obviously, we don't spend time in the bootcamp talking about what's a bond or what's equities, or we assume that you have some basic knowledge on finance, or what's an option. So you have some basic knowledge of these models, right? And we go straight to models. So this is I think the best use of our time is to show you algorithms, implementations of different models for portfolio management, for option pricing, and for the new natural language applications. So we have on day one, right, a very exciting day. So we start by, I start by reviewing and I set the pace for the first 3 hours, talking about the different aspects of data science in finance. Let's say this non-parametric finance, and so we discuss the several aspects on supervised learning and supervised NLP and RL. Over the years, what we've done is we've reduced the introductory aspects, and we have started as soon as possible with the most advanced ML algorithms. This is a little bit how we've seen the best use of our time for the delegates. We'll have after me Pedro Kolm, who's going to talk us about quantitative finance and the impact of machine learning algorithms. Right, so Peter, as I said, right, so then we'll have William Kelly from Kaya, or delivering a talk about a keynote about general aspects of the use of AI in general in finance. He's always talking about ethics and fairness and so on. Very interesting. And we will begin the coding sessions, right? We have again extended the coding sessions, right? Every day. We started first with 30 minutes. Now we're 1 hour and 30 minutes coding sessions. I have to say also that all the professors, me included, are bringing notebooks, right, to the lectures. So pretty much all lectures are, I would say, 65% practical, right? And obviously the coding sessions are 100% practical. So the idea is that Nicole, who's a marvelous instructor, right, is able to, right, introduce and show you the most basic first, and then most advanced algorithms with notebooks. Okay. So again, these are long days from 9 to 5, right? This is very intense. We will also provide homework every day, right? Not everybody feels like completing the homework these days, but you'll have the option, right? If you, right? Okay, the second day we start like discussing some traditional supervised learning algorithms like nearest neighbors, super vector machines, classification and regression trees, right? And bagging and boosting, right? So random forest, extreme gradient boosting, right? XGBoost, and so on. So we have been, working really hard to also show, so not only to see, which we're going to see a lot, deep learning, reinforcement learning, and NLP, but also the most traditional algorithms, right? They're still very useful, right, for interpretability purposes, right? And obviously, when you have some sort of less data, then probably trees are going to be a little bit more useful than deep neural networks. Then we'll have Sasha Stoikov. Sasha Stoikov is at Cornell, right? Teaching at Cornell. He's going to talk us about machine learning and microstructure, right? So we'll see lots of so AI is applied in finance in very specific domains. One, microstructure is one of them, high frequency, right? There you have lots of data which you can play with. Data sets is oftentimes not available, but this is a very interesting area of application. So high frequency market microstructure, right? Then we'll have Stefan Johnson talking about unsupervised learning, and supervised learning has proven to be, right, one of the most important things, right, for machine learning AI overall, basically because of self-supervised learning. So the idea that and autoencoders and all that stuff. So the main idea on unsupervised learning is, we have the Y's, which is the target variable. We have the X's, which are the inputs. So we have a giant matrix X, right? So the idea about unsupervised learning is to make sense of this giant X matrix. And we do that through matrix factorization algorithms, clustering algorithms, and also neural networks that build representations of these X's. So build word representations of these X's. So autoencoders, variation autoencoders, GANs, and are going to be very, very, very important, right, in finance, because they'll help us produce synthetic time series, increase and augment the data sets. Finance is a domain in which some of the data sets are small data instead of big data. So, and supervised learning, we think, has a tremendous future, right? You can also call unsupervised learning somehow generative finance, right? And I tell you, there's a lot of different applications in which unsupervised and more specifically generative adversarial networks and even more variational autoencoders can be extremely useful and are incredibly useful. And we'll have then Nicole Concepcion with another hour and a half of coding, right? Here, already seeing a bunch of algorithms. Following this idea of what are the main areas in which these algorithms can be useful, right? Day 3 starts with David Pacheco Aznar, right? Who's going to talk us about, who's one of the youngest members of the faculty, who's going to talk us about generative models, right? So the use of different algorithms like variational autoencoders, GANs, and so on, right? In order to do things with time series, right? But also language and so on. David Pacheco is also going to introduce already in day 3, so we have accelerated a bit. The most advanced text is already talking about reinforcement learning, right? So reinforcement learning, the idea that to find optimal policies is going to be extremely important in finance, right? It already is, but we're going to see more and more adoption, right? So we thought on day 3 we should already start talking about RL to introduce the topic. RL is a very technical topic. It requires several iterations, right, of in order to fully absorb the potential, right? Then we'll have Daga Shmeta from BlackRock talking about the specifics of the use of machine learning in practice, right, for a very large asset manager. And then we'll start an NLP already in day 3, right, with Asier Gutierrez, who's I would say one of the experts in NLP for example, for Spanish, right? We also put together with us here Phineas, which is a large language model that we launched a year ago. And then to conclude day 3, we'll have Vincent Zunekind who's on Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, Nadia, talking about a paper that we wrote a few months ago about the equity machine factor models, right? So factor models is another very important area of application in finance, and I would say that machine learning can be of great help modeling factors because of the high dimensionality of the problem, right? Because of the fact that it's the data is asynchronous and potentially nonlinear, and so on and so forth. So we do think that machine learning models are interesting in that domain. So Vincent Zunekheim is going to talk us about that, and then we'll have another hour and a half coding with Nicole Concepcion. Again, we're making a big effort, making a big investment to have as much coding sessions as possible in the bootcamp. The idea is that everybody, after finishing the bootcamp, is able to work, implement, and so on, right? One might say, you're exaggerating. It's not possible that somebody who has never been involved in data science or AI acquires some sort of a master knowledge. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that somebody who comes to our bootcamp and it has already notions about finance, data science, and Python, you after 6 days, right, of intense training and seeing all the notebooks and so on, I think you're going to get to a good level, right? A level that is allowing us to be working with some of the largest banks, right? So we are right now collaborating in several AI projects with some of the largest banks in the planet who want us to implement generative models, want us to talk about large language models and its implementation, option pricing problems. So there's a multitude of problems in financial institutions that can be tackled using all these algorithms, and financial companies are willing to have this knowledge, are willing to hire, right? Are willing to hire these professionals that have this skill set, right? So that they're able to understand what's a transformer, what's an LSTM, but at the same time, you know, can use these models in different finance domains. Day 4, in day 4, it's a, you know, you see here, it's a brilliant day, right? So Thursday, the 10th of August, we'll have first Stefan Johnson, and here we deep dive in deep learning, right? So the idea is using and learning how to use transformers, how to use LSTMs, how to use convolutional neural networks in really different domains, like prediction, right? Portfolio management, option pricing, synthetic generation of time series, as I said, with GANs and variational autoencoders, and so on. So after Stefan, we'll have Gordon Reader, who's I wouldn't miss, right? Gordon Reader's, right, keynote, right? So Gordon, you know, I think there's no secret why he's teaching at several of the United States best mathematical finance programs, because you will see he has the depth, an incredible depth and breadth of knowledge and common sense, and also, again, he's been one of the year, right, 2 years ago. So he's really a brilliant instructor and practitioner. And then we'll start with Professor Dixon. So as I'm sure everybody knows in the audience, so Matthew Dixon is one of the I would say most important figures in quantitative finance in 2023, because he's been contributing with papers, he's been contributing with the book that I mentioned before, this machine learning in finance from theory to practice, right? In which he, Igor Halperin and Paul Bilokon give us an exceptional tour on these different algorithms. Maybe it's a good moment also to say that whoever comes to our bootcamp will have ready back then, we are finishing a book, right, on AI in finance with risk books, right? So it's going to be fresh back then, and it's going to be an artificial intelligence in finance book, and we're going to be talking about all these issues: deep learning in finance, in time series, in factor models, reinforcement learning in finance, in different domains, right? In portfolio management, option pricing, and so on. And last but not least, natural language processing and large language models, who are going to have an unexplored, unprecedented impact in finance too. Okay, so Matthew is going to provide a deep dive on different aspects of deep learning in mathematical finance. And I wouldn't miss, right? Certainly, right? Again, Matthew is a great researcher, great instructor, right? So I think you shouldn't miss him. Day 5, it's a very important day, because in day 5, what we do, what we will do in the 11th August, we will be a little tired after 4 days, but the avalanche of good stuff will keep us really awake. We'll have Matthew Dixon talking about reinforcement learning in finance. He's going to introduce the theoretical aspects. Obviously, as you know, the theoretical aspects of reinforcement learning is we need to frame a markup decision processes, right? And then we have some sort of a bunch of algorithms that can be used. We're going to talk about Bellman equations, DQ networks, distributional reinforcement learning, right? So we think here we have really very interesting stuff to show, brand new, right? Because we have been working for the book in some distributional reinforcement learning, right? David, right? And we're going to show all that stuff. And obviously Matthew and Igor are some of the most important researchers, practitioners working on reinforcement learning for finance right now. As a speaker on day 5, we'll have Nicholas Westray. Nicholas Westray is an absolutely brilliant researcher and also practitioner, and he's going to talk us about this another round of high frequency, right, and execution. So this is another central problem in finance. A central problem in finance is how we can execute our trades, right, and how can we minimize the market impact. Market impact also goes against us. When we buy, it makes us go more expensive, and when we sell cheaper, right, because of the market impact that is non-linear. It's a really non-trivial. And as I said before, so here we have a different some sort of complexity of the problem. Here we have lots of data, right? So Nicholas Westray is going to talk us about his recent research on using deep neural networks, transformers, LSTMs in order to tackle this problem. Okay, so we'll have several speakers who are going to talk us about high frequency microstructure and high frequency trading. Then on day 5 we'll have Amin Avusala. Amin Avusala is professor at NYU Tandon of machine learning in finance. Is a young professor and researcher, very technical, who's going to talk us about again continuing our training, our deep dive in how reinforcement learning can be used in the finance domain, right? So I mean, Abu Salah is gonna, right, and we have great hopes, right? He's, again, you'll see, he's a very technical professor using lots of maths, but I think you're gonna enjoy that. Also on day 5 we'll have either we'll have Arpit Narayan, who's head of financial engineering at MathWorks, with MATLAB, or Miquel Alonso. MATLAB and MathWorks have a great deal of experience on the use of different AI machine learning algorithms for large global institutions. So it's very interesting to hear Arpit Narayan's or Miquel Alonso perspective on these issues, right? Okay, obviously we're not endorsing MATLAB or MathWorks, right? Maybe it's a good moment to talk about that, right? Obviously the bootcamp, it's Python, it's all open source, right? We use PyTorch, right? More than probably Keras or TensorFlow, scikit-learn, stats models, right? So we're everything is open source, but we thought that having MATLAB talking about these issues, normally they talk about interpretability, right? So after 4 days of AI machine learning, right, obviously there are lots of questions that arise about the second order implications of these models, which is these models are typically very large, are non-parametric, right? And interpretability, fairness, ethics are extremely important. So we'll discuss these issues, Lime, Shapley, right, Fanovas, and all that kind of stuff, which is gaining more importance. And why interpretability is gaining more importance? Because adoption is gaining more importance. So the fact that banks and large institutions come to their model validation department saying, I have built this model, I would like you to look at it, and I would like you to give me permission, approval to use it. And then obviously these folks and supervisors are asked lots of questions about interpretability, ask lots of questions, right, about robustness and so on, right? So MathWorks has a long experience on that. So we will also have time to discuss all these issues in depth. Day 6, Saturday, 12th of August 2023. So we'll have what we call NLP Day, the NLP Day, right? So the Natural Language Processing Day. This is one of the areas, obviously, that has changed dramatically since we started the bootcamp. So as many of you might know, so in 2018, right? So we had already some very good deep learning models, right? And transformers were born back then, right? And we quickly incorporated BERT and Elmo into our training. So the idea about these natural language processing sessions are similar to what we're doing with. I am the instructor of NLP for the CQF, and here it's a full day devoted to first starting to learn the basic of natural language processing. So language processing pre-deep learning was more about frequency methods and the use of I don't know, linear discriminant analyses and supervector machines and so on, using TF-IDF and using dictionaries and all that kind of stuff. So we will start the day discussing what I call traditional NLP, and then we quickly will move on to the most advanced models these days that are transformers, right? BERT, ChatGTP, and more recently, obviously, Bloomberg GPT, and all these models. Why this is so important, right? So this is so important because, as we have seen, right, in recent developments, right, so large language models like ChatGPT or BART or or other models, right, which we're currently evaluating, have shown to be incredibly important or incredibly useful to perform several tasks, right? So basically, a large language model, it's a bunch of it's a very large data sets. You put together a bunch of transformers and you tell the transformers, you have to tell me what's the next word. I prompt the model. So I ask a question, for example, can you tell me what are the differences between Nadal as a tennis player and Messi as a soccer player, right? So very bizarre question, right? And the model has to figure out, the model actually figures out what's the next word with the highest probability, okay? So this apparently too simple way to see things, right, and evaluate things has shown to be extremely efficient and effective to perform a bunch of tasks like obviously essays, writing marketing programs, helping us to write research pieces, to do coding, right? So it's also really good at coding and so on and so forth. So here, right, so day 6, it's a very important day to learn how these models can be put together, what is the technology behind them. So we'll see more on transformers, right? So transformers are probably the most widely used architecture, deep learning or machine learning architecture used in different areas, not only language, but also you can do reinforcement learning using transformers. You can also do mathematics. You can also do time series and so on and so forth. Okay, so here we spent, and I have to say that here, right, quants will have a very different approach to these, very different. So it's a very different domain than the ones they've been working on. We'll have on Saturday, before concluding, 2 excellent speakers. One is Richard Rothenberg, who's going to talk us about how we can use NLP in ESG and SDG. Environmental social governance is one of the things that is impacting finance in the United States globally, right? The idea of incorporating investment processes, right? So these criteria, so these aspects. And obviously one way to see and tackle the problem is to read articles, and then try to figure out, so what is Apple doing, right, on environmental? What is Apple doing in social? What is Apple doing in governance, right? So this is a completely new area for finance practitioners, right? And NLP technologies can help tackle the problem. And we save one of the best for the last. So Igor Halperin. So it's always the last one in our bootcamp. So Igor Halperin is one of the giants in I would say in machine learning in finance globally. He's now at Fidelity. He was previously at NYU Tandon, right? And then he's been working prior to that he was in JP Morgan, right? And he's going to talk us about different uses of reinforcement learning in finance. So Igor Halperin has been telling us the importance of inverse reinforcement learning in order to do stuff. Then yeah, okay. And Okay, so I think, and then, okay, about how we evaluate, and then I'll answer some more detailed questions. So please get your questions ready, right? This is now the moment to ask, right? About how we evaluate, right? So the bootcamp is a very intense 6 days, 40 hours in New York, right? So it's an exhausting week, right? 3 months after, on the 7th November, we give you the opportunity to pass the theory exam with open books, right? We ask you 10 questions, and in these 10 questions, right, we ask you questions about a little bit of mathematical questions and also some sort of algorithm questions, right? If you ask me, we're not, so this is not a very hard exam, I have to say. So this is a little bit the same exam that my NYU students, right, have, right, when I'm teaching data science, right, right, these days at NYU, Courant. And 3 months after, so here you show us if you've understood and learned the theory, and if you've and by theory we mean maths and intuition about different algorithms. I don't know what LSTMs or transformers or SBMs, right, or pre-processing, right, or etc. Right. So we'll share a few, obviously, the ones who attend the bootcamp, a few questions, a few sample questions, right? Okay, and then in order to evaluate your coding and your ability to frame problems and to solve problems, where you're required to produce an AI in finance project on the 13th February of 2024, right? So 6 months after. And the idea is that, again, that you show us that you're able to put together code and solve problems, right? You don't need to have a huge data set, right? So and it doesn't need to be again a big data problem, but again you have to show us that you're able to solve a portfolio management problem or an options pricing problem, or that you can solve, right, I don't know, a banking problem, a credit problem. I haven't discussed credit, but credit also, it's a very interesting domain for all these models. And if you just don't want to do that this year, you have 2 years, right, to pass the exam. Yeah, you own the copyright. Yeah, we know we don't use or circulate the projects, right? Yeah, we don't circulate or use. We never do that. The projects of our students. So the project is yours. We only evaluate the project, right? And then we'll give you, if it's something that you need guarantees, we'll sign an NDA or whatever. Okay, then it's only 6 weeks. Okay. Okay, yeah, yeah, generative AI engineering. Nick is asking about, I don't know if you're talking about language models, right? But certainly we will give you 50 notebooks, right? Some of them are about generative finance, and you can do whatever you want with them, right? Yeah. Okay. Now, Nick is also saying if we offer this in 6 weeks instead of 6 days, we have always thought about this, right? But the most practical, and we can still consider a longer, right? So it's like a university course, right? But we think that Why do we think that this is useful in 6 days? Because you can come to New York, focus these 6 days, right? No work, no distractions, right? No, and just work hard here. And it's a very immersive, efficient way to, right? And then you will have the videos and you'll have the, but yeah. You have 2 years to complete both. 6 days is tight. That's right. 6 days is tight, but it's very efficient, right? And obviously the price is consistent with the 6 days instead of a very long and so on. You see what I mean? So, but we can consider extending the course, but yeah, we have been. Oh, about the alphas. Yeah, we have always these questions, right? Let me say something about the models, right? So we teach you, we basically, the delegates, right? Basically, excuse me, the professors basically will show you how to use different algorithms, right? And they'll tell you, if you have this data set using this algorithm, this is the results, right? So have they been able to produce alpha? Well, for Marcos Lopez, for example, who's also in the faculty, I haven't mentioned him, but he's also in the faculty. You know, so it's a difficult question to answer, right? As to whether you know, but all of them have produced papers. You can go to their papers, right? I personally have 10 papers on SSRN, which you can read, right? Nobody in the faculty can guarantee you that if you use the algorithms, you're going to be able to generate alpha, right? So this is, but we can tell you that this is, scientifically speaking, the best algorithms you can throw to a problem, right? Okay, so that's our commitment. Our commitment is, this is a data science problem. What is the best algorithms available in order to try to solve the problem, right? If it's non-linear, if it's highly dimensional, if it's non-stationary, and so on and so forth, right? But I have to say that while nobody can show, we can show that we have 4 quants of the year in the faculty. So at least their colleagues have said, these guys are really good, right? So yeah, these are Jupyter notebooks. Yeah, good. That's a good way to prepare the course is, for example, you know, obviously Matthew's book, right? Any or yeah, let's say, okay, let me show you a couple of references. Okay. Yeah. You'll have we'll give you a certificate that you attended the bootcamp. Obviously, there's an attended certificate, and then there's the certificate that you have passed. And then, in regards to what are the best references and books to start preparing, we always talk about 2, which are these hands-on. The Aurélien Géron book, hands-on, and I'm sure some of you, hands-on machine learning with Keras, scikit-learn, and TensorFlow. This is well, there's the 3rd edition. I think this is the 3rd edition. This is the best book to learn general aspects of. Then we have a Matthew's book, right? Matthew's book. Matthew Dixon. Oh, it's not here. Oh, is machine learning. And as I said, we will this one, okay. And again, back then we will have our book ready by then, right? But we can't circulate the book, right? Yet, because it's just being being reviewed and so on, right? But we'll have our own reference, right? But by then, yeah. I will share around 40 hours. We will share 40 hours of videos, all of them. Okay, so the support model is that we will provide you questions, right? Sample questions, so you can, and we're available for office hours, right? In case you have questions, right? For the November 7th exam. Okay. Okay. Any other questions or remarks or? Okay, so just, yeah. So again, right, I think that just in order to conclude, let me wrap up by saying, right, we're seeing a really huge interest, right? Not for the first time, but I'm saying the amount of requests that we've had for very large institutions to do trainings, right? To help them implement models is showing us that there's going to be an intense pressure in the job market in order to have these kinds of professionals. So people that it's able to use advanced machine learning models in areas like finance, in areas like time series, factor models, language models. We're seeing a huge interest in language models. This is a completely new domain for everybody. Whoever starts looking at the problem, whoever starts getting trained on these large language models, it's probably going to have an edge, right? A professional edge in finance. Okay. Yeah, we need, that's a good question. That's a good question. The Python. Okay, so I think what we're gonna do is, I think we're gonna share, right, introductory aspects of Python, right, for the delegates, and we'll also share some videos that we have for you to prepare better for Python. So basic data science, Python is needed, right? I have to say too that Nicole is an extremely good instructor. So Nicole Concepcion, she's able to, but I don't want to exaggerate, right? So you have to. Coding is also about spending time with problems and working with it. So if you've never coded, right? So you have to start a month before, using and working with Python. If you, right? No, we don't give credits on. We're considering this, but no. In principle, I have to say that except large language models or reinforcement learning models, you typically you can do a bunch of things using your laptops, right? But that's a good question. Maybe one day we ask Amazon. We're talking to NVIDIA. NVIDIA reached out to us, and we discussed with NVIDIA these issues. It might be that back then we can give you a little bit of compute additional to, but I think that traditional training, ML AI training, if you just don't use very large data sets, you can use on laptops, so to speak, but we'll consider this. That's a good point. Okay. Yeah. Okay, guys. So thank you very much for participating in this info session. We really hope that you guys, right? I think you're going to have a huge benefit attending the bootcamp. I'm obviously the founder of this, so but I really do think that this is a time. I'm convinced this is the time to be trained on these issues, right? Banks, asset managers, everybody is looking for people that has experience of these issues, and nobody has used transformers here and there yet. So it's an excellent opportunity to make an impact on research, on the job market, and so on. So I really do think that, right? So yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, guys, and I hope to see all of you in August, right, in the bootcamp, or we will be, obviously offering bootcamps next year, right, or other programs. So thank you very much, everybody, and have a nice evening and afternoon.